And with that, we mark the end of a great 3-week journey in the great state of Florida. Coming to you live here from Tampa Bay. We will now have to close the curtain on what has been a very nice trip in the Sunshine State. Now let's hope that we are not closing the curtain on one of your fantasy football seasons as we get closer to the playoff picture here as we move into Week 10 of the NFL season. Again, my name is Drew Garino here with the Week 10 picks. It was a very successful one for me last week in the pick'ems, going 5-0 on the week, going up to 27-23 on the season. So pretty strong performance there. Suck it, Dennis. But that brings us a little bit of a recap from last week. Cam continued to stay in first place with another impressive victory. He's at the top of the league right now at 7-2. But look out below because Dennis is right on his heels. He's won 3 in a row and moved up to 6-3 on the standings. And Bill and Sean collide this week, as we'll get to a little bit later. They're coming in on some impressive winning streaks of their own. So there's still plenty of activity going on towards the top of the standings. There's also some activity towards the bottom of the standings there. But we'll get right into the action. We won't waste any more time here. And we'll first start out with the aforementioned Dennis against Steve. Dennis, as we mentioned, is riding a 3-game winning streak, while Steve is hoping that he doesn't have to get fitted for his pink shirt as the low man on the totem pole in fantasy football. So even last week with Demaryius Thomas going up a little bit of Revis, he got a little bit of Bronner, he was still able to come through with another really strong performance. We've come to expect this now from Demaryius every week, and now he's got Oakland, so just look out below for that one. Gates is on a bye, so Dennis has to turn to Charles Clay. He's been incredibly inconsistent for Miami, but he did have a touchdown last week. They have Detroit this week, so he could be a red zone target for Tannehill. So we'll have to monitor that. We also have to monitor Sammy Watkins, who left practice yesterday with a groin injury. It has limited him again today. So he should be okay to play, but we definitely need to watch and see if that groin injury is going to have any impact on his performance. You don't want to mess up the groin, take it from any guy. But we're looking now at Steve's roster, and you like that he made some additions to his team because he's just been riddled with injuries and buys. He got Steven Jackson, Kendall Wright, and Delaney Walker, so they should step right into his lineup and hopefully give him some opportunities to plug those holes. Really the positive for Steve, Peyton Manning is always going to be on the plus side of 20 points. You can always really count on him to do a nice job week in and week out. And hopefully that the switch to Mark Sanchez, the franchise quarterback now in Philadelphia, he's going to start for them, and he's got Zach Ertz on his roster this week. Hopefully that can help him wake out of his season-long funk that he's been, because he's just been really a disappointment thus far this year. So with all the injuries and buys and everything that's going on with Steve's roster, plus the momentum that Dennis has going right now, you got to side with him and you got to expect that he's going to take care of business against Steve this week. Now we'll look at Ryan versus Dave as the next matchup. Very promising start for Ryan, but he started to fall off a little bit. He's lost a few games. So Dave is trying to make that late season push. So this is a really good matchup that we have with two guys that are kind of going in opposite directions. Ryan has Matt Ryan as his quarterback right now. Really has been an off year for Matt Ryan. He has a chance, though, this week to make a big splash. He's got Tampa Bay on the road. Tampa Bay's defense is horrible. So really, if he can't do it this week, he's not going to do it all season. So I'm looking for Matt Ryan to have a big game. When you look at Ryan's roster, other than Marshawn Lynch, that second running back position has been a big problem for him since Rashard Jennings went down with an injury. He's got Chris Johnson in there right now. I know it's a little bit promising that he had a pretty good week last week, but you can't expect too much out of Chris Johnson. So that second running back position for Ryan definitely bears watching. But he's also stretching a little bit on the wide receivers. He's got T.Y. Hilton is out with a bye this week. Martavius Bryant, we talked about him a little bit last week. He's a very intriguing name. He's had some good games recently. He could be a good plug-and-play type of guy, but he's going to really need both Mohamed Sanu and A.J. Green to have big games in order to take down Dave. Dave, on the other hand, has really capitalized on some players going down with injury. He drafted Hill, so that was a good pickup there on the draft side of things, but he's also picked up Hillman. He's picked up Allen Robinson. They've been good plug-and-play guys for him, and it's really helped him ascend up the standings. You got to really like what you've seen out of Odell Beckham as well. been so electric in the open field. He had that one really long catch the other day. I mean, he's just so fast, and he just snatches the ball with one hand. Beautiful. Love the pregame warm-up that he has. So you got to think that the Giants are going to try to do what they can to get him the ball as much as possible. He's got Brady on a bye this week, which is disappointing because he's going with Tony Romo. Normally that would be very good. Obviously, he's coming off the injury, so a little bit of a damaged goods situation. They have Jacksonville. If they get a lead, you got to think that there's a chance that they're going to take it easy with Romo. So they have him projected right now for about 15 points. I think that's accurate. I think that's about what he is at this point. But I like Dave's running backs. I like Dave's wide receivers to do enough to take down Ryan. I think this is the week where Dave will get his 4th win of the season. Next matchup we're going to be looking at here is Bud versus Adam. Tough loss for Bud. He lost to Dave last week, so he looks to get back in the win column. Adam has now lost 6 in a row, so he really needs to stop the bleeding if he wants any shot at making a playoff run in the future. If you look at Julio Jones from Bud's team, numbers have really been in a sharp decline, really the last 3 weeks. He's had some injury issues, but he's had a bye week to get ready for this matchup this week. So I like him. I think he's going to get rejuvenated along with Matt Ryan this week against Tampa Bay. You also have to like what you've seen out of Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram, 2 career performances the last 2 weeks. He's had 24 points the last 2 weeks each. He's also in a contract year, so I think he is going to be the guy in New Orleans moving forward out of the backfield. I like his chances. I think on the flip side, speaking of running backs, I think you're going to start to see the decline of Gore. I mean, you've already seen it. His numbers have been down recently. So I think, Gore against the Saints, I'm really not positive about that matchup. The Saints actually have a decent run defense, so I'm not on the Frank Gore train, particularly in Week 10. Looking at Adam's team, he did swing that trade with me, so he got Jamal Charles and Golden Tate coming his way. We all know what Jamal Charles can do and the type of player that he is, really, a top player in fantasy football when he's healthy and good to go. He had another touchdown last week. He's got the Bills this week, a little bit of a tougher matchup, but can still find the end zone. Golden Tate has had a very, very good season. He has overwhelmed his projections at this point. Now he's got Calvin Johnson back, so the numbers will go down a little bit, but if you look at his numbers, even with Calvin Johnson in the lineup, he's still a good player. He's still a very solid contributor, so good move on Adam's end for sure to grab those 2 players. I also like what Forsette's been giving Adam since he made that trade with Sean. He had a good game catching passes against Pittsburgh, and he's got Tennessee at home this week, so another really good matchup as well. Adams' one struggle really, or one of the struggles that he's had on this season, is filling the tight end position. He's had a myriad players that have come through there. Cook is in there right now. He has no fantasy value whatsoever, so a big negative there on Adams' roster this week. So if you look at Adams' roster, really the 3 identifying weaknesses that you can see, you got wide receiver 3, Dwayne Bowe, tight end with Cook, in the flex spot with Ivory, who had limited touches last week. It gave a lot of the touches to Chris Johnson. So these positions are going to cost him. I think Bud is going to come out with a victory because of those weak positions, and I think Bud's going to get really good contributions, particularly from his wide receivers. Next matchup we'll look at will be myself versus Cam. Really need a win on my end to keep the postseason chances alive. Cam is hoping to hold off all the guys below him to hold on to that top spot at now 8-2 if he wins this one. A lot of key players for both guys in the Monday Night Football matchup. Drew has Cam Newton and now the newly acquired Shady McCoy. So he's going to need a good performance out of both those guys. I think McCoy, you're going to see him get the ball in different situations. You're going to see a lot of catches from him. So I think out of the backfield there, he's going to be a big target for Mark Sanchez. Ruben Randle has had a fantastic opportunity to emerge as a wide receiver 1 in New York. The target numbers have been there, but he has not been on the same page as Eli, and it's really cost him. He hasn't had a good productive start as much as I hoped in recent weeks. They've been giving a lot of throws also to Odell Beckham on Dave's team. So Ruben Randle's going to really need to have to step it up because that's going to be a big weakness for Drew in his roster this week if he can't. But on the flip side, Randall Cobb coming over from Adam is big because he's got Chicago this week. The Bears secondary is in shambles right now, so Randall Cobb should be a good start for him. If you look at Cam's roster, he's got Kelsey in the flex spot. He found the end zone last week, but he's really been up and down recently since his big Monday night performance against the Patriots. He's had some issues, but if he finds the end zone, he's doing his job for Cam this week. That's really ultimately what Cam is going to need. When you look at Cam's receivers, he's got Maclin and Brown. They've been putting up video game-esque numbers. Last week, Maclin was fantastic. The thing you need to watch with Macklin now is Sanchez. Sanchez is the quarterback there, obviously. So we need to see if his contributions are going to stay at that level. They may not be at 33 or 40 points, whatever he's had the last 2 weeks, but he's certainly going to be the number one target there, and he still will be very solid for Cam's roster. If you look at a key for this game or this matchup on Cam's team, you got to look at Reggie Bush. Coming off some injuries, he's playing against his old team, so he's going to be juiced up. You got to like when guys play their old team, they typically rise to the occasion. So Cam is going to need Reggie Bush to find the end zone and be active out of the backfield for him to have a good shot at winning this game. This game really will be determined on Monday Night Football. There's a lot of key guys, as we mentioned, in this matchup that are playing on Monday Night Football. That being said, I think Drew will get enough from his guys, DeMarco Murray, LaShawn McCoy, and even Larry Donnell, who I think actually will find the end zone against Seattle. So I think I'm going to take myself to win that one and get the 4th win of the season. Finally, we have the matchup of the week. It is Sean versus Bill. We've talked about them off the top. They've rapidly moved up the standings, so they're squaring off this week to see which one of these winning streaks is going to come to an end. We all laughed at the Harvin trade with the Jets, wondering what they were doing, and also the fact that that trade happened exactly when Sean and Adam made their agreement. But he's responded with really good games for the Jets the last 2 weeks, particularly last week with 11 catches. So, if that continues, if Vic keeps getting him the ball, you got to like that what Harvin's going to be able to bring fantasy-wise to Sean's roster. If you look at Sean's team also, Brandon Cooks is in there. Cooks has really had alternating good games and bad games. He'll have a really good game, then he kind of falls off, then a good game and falls off. Well, last week he had a bad game, so that means if you follow the pattern, Cooks should have a good game. But I also think that they're going to try to get him the ball in a lot of different situations. They're playing against the 49ers, and that is going to be a good opportunity to get him in some unique situations to get the football. I think Sean must have been disappointed that the hometown Tampa Bay, where I am right now, that Josh McCown is taking over for Mike Glennon at quarterback, because that really hurts Mike Evans. Mike Evans has really flourished with Glennon at quarterback. Now that he's going back to McCown, his numbers may take a dip. So we're going to be watching Mike Evans' performance to see how he's going to fare with the new quarterback at the helm. If you want to talk about bye week blues, just talk to Bill DeFerrari this week. He will tell you that his roster right now is absolutely loaded with bye weeks. Look at his bench. It's 100% bye week situations right now. He's also got 2 vacant positions at the moment at the kicker spot and the flex position that he is going to need to make a decision on. He may bite the bullet and hold on to those guys and not drop anyone and keep zeros in his roster, or he may drop some people. And if he drops some people, there's going to be some high-profile names on the waiver wire. So giving you a little spoiler alert that you need to watch Bill DeFerrari's team in the next couple of days to see what he's going to do, if he's going to fill those spots or if he's going to keep them as zeros. But if you just judge by what Bill has in his roster right now, he's got Andy Dalton in the night game tonight. Not wild about it. AJ Green is going to be targeted more from what I'm reading. So, if that's the case, that obviously is going to help Dalton. But you also have to like that Calvin Johnson is back in Bill's roster. Looking forward down, the rest of the games, if Calvin's able to stay healthy. Bill's already been able to put up a lot of points. You got to think with a healthy Calvin Johnson, that number is going to go up exponentially. So definitely want to see how Calvin Johnson does in his first game back with the Lions. I would have loved to have seen this matchup at full strength on Bill's squad with guys like Gronkowski in there, but that is, the life of fantasy football. You got to watch out for those buys when you make those draft picks. So with that, because Bill's team is really not at full strength, I'm going to take Sean to go ahead and take care of business and get that win to win his, I believe, 5th in a row, which would be pretty impressive from the commissioner. So that will do it for this week's action. I appreciate you hearing me out and coming to you live again from Florida for one last time, flying home tomorrow. So, Shawnee, see you soon.